Well, hi, everybody. Thank you so much for taking the time to join today. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Selena, and I am a sales and relationship manager here at Lumi. And I'll turn over to Pete to introduce
Thanks,
himself.
Selena. So I'm Pete Fowler. I'm the COO of Lumi.
Yeah. So the main purpose of today's session is just because we have been getting quite a few different questions come in from sporting federations regarding how to host hybrid and virtual meetings or how to tag on a virtual aspect to their meeting just because of obviously everything that's going on in the world lately. So we thought rather than have a million different conversations with people, we kind of open a session up to have a discussion about it and share some of the best practices that we've learned over the years of supporting these types of meetings with lots of different sporting federations. And
Perfect. So I think what we've set a really good agenda today of going through what we refer to as six provisions relating to running the meeting. And of course, what is that's really considering is how we move from potentially the in-room, which is the norm for some sporting federations, and how we really introduce hybrid and virtual, and all of the considerations that you must make as a sporting federation when doing so. And over the past, well, it's been 10 plus years now that Lumi's really supported many of the international sporting federations, and that is some 75 plus globally. So what comes with that is certainly we can't predict anything, but we have seen an awful lot when it comes to sporting federation meetings, and what you must obviously think about and what can possibly happen. And I think that is key in this is understanding and thinking two or three steps ahead of everything relating to what could possibly happen at your Congress. And we know, of course, that your General Assembly and Congress is, one of the most important moments of governance within your calendar year, and whether that be annually or whether that be biannually. And that can involve, of course, and we support everything relating to elections, constitutional changes, and that is principally being supported by the voting element. That is what we pride ourselves on here at Lumi, and what the platform prides itself on is supporting voting in a very accurate and secure way. And of course, we'll touch on that today. But I think when you think of remote and hybrid participation, you also have to ensure that you're not disenfranchising any participation method. You treat every delegate equally wherever they may be. And I think what really leans upon that is how the technology is built and its functionality and all of the different options that you can provide. So really what we want to do today is to take you through, as I said, these provisions, some step-by-step moments. It is a 30-minute whistle-stop tour of everything, but I hope that you'll find this very valuable, and of course we're really open and willing to speak more if you would like to understand a lot more. So Selena, over to you.
thanks. And it's meant to be quite an open session. So if you do have a question at any point, please just raise your hand in the Zoom and feel free to speak at any point. And we're happy for you to jump in and give your 2 cents on any topic as well. So yeah, again, really open session. So feel free. So kind of going on to the second provision here, it's about clear instructions. So I guess one of the things that we've learned by supporting these meetings is that it's really, really important to give your members, especially ones that haven't used a virtual platform before, really clear instructions on how the platform does work. So members should receive clear login instructions, access to voting, a structured Q&A process, and guidance beforehand. And one of the biggest things that you should supply your members with is some sort of a meeting guide. This ensures that members have instructions on how to log into the platform so they can kind of look through that beforehand. And then they can also reference it on the day. So if they want to then look back on it because they can't remember how to log in, they'll have that guidance. And that's something that obviously Lumi here we'd like to provide you with so you can circulate that to your members. And you can also do that in multiple languages. So depending on what language they speak, you can kind of cater to that for them. Another really good thing to provide members with, and something that we've had a lot of success with the virtual attendance in the Lumi meetings, is training sessions. So this is where we would open the platform up maybe a couple times, just depending on time zones, and have members come in and join. They can do a couple voting test questions with us before the meeting, like a week before or something like that. This really gets them comfortable with the platform and makes them feel confident about how to join the platform before the actual day of the meeting. Um, and it just really gives them overall confidence in it. So then they're not scrambling when it actually comes to logging in. It's really good again, especially if your members never joined a virtual meeting before, it's good to just like layer up the confidence so that they feel secure in logging in and voting. Um, And equally as important is support. So during the actual Congress or General Assembly, we always think it's a great practice to have some sort of a support system. So for us, what we do is we offer an inbox. So that support inbox is open to all the members to email if they're having any troubles logging in. We are monitoring that all of the time, and we're working closely with your federation to be able to answer any of those questions that might come in during any point of that process. Another really important thing to touch on is credentials. And if you could do the credentials slide. So obviously it is of the utmost importance to be able to distribute securely all of the meeting credentials, the meeting links in a virtual atmosphere. It's also important to be really adaptable for this because if you're having a hybrid meeting and you have virtual attendees, we will send out those credentials securely beforehand, and we will have the in-room members obviously joining in a different way. If then one of the in-room members comes or isn't able to be there in person, it's really important to be able to adapt to that. So we've had situations where the night before, even the morning of, the member federation or the sporting federation that we're working with will come to us and they'll say, we have a member that isn't able to join anymore in person. Can we get them joined virtually? So it's important to be working with a platform that can be adaptable and to pivot in those types of situations. In our situation, it's very easy for us to transfer somebody over to be virtual and then to get them their credentials sent really, really quickly and with very little notice. So that's definitely something to think about. Which kind of brings me to the next provision, which is engagement and equal participation. So Pete already kind of touched on this a little bit earlier, but it is of the utmost importance when it comes to hosting a hybrid meeting to have equal participation, especially if your members are really used to coming to in-room and being seen and heard and being able to speak whenever they feel like they want to on any motion. I need to make sure that if they then need to suddenly join virtually, they're able to have the same rights. So that's where our Zoom integration feature, which you're all on today, is kind of comes into play. And it's something that we developed because of the feedback that we've gotten from so many sporting federations. Um, a few really good things to note about this kind of a feature is that the naming conventions will carry over. So when we distribute the credentials to all of your online delegates, you'll give us their naming conventions. And then when they log into the Lumi platform, that's what you'll see on Zoom. So you'll get no weird names like grandma's iPad or anything like that. You know exactly who's logged in and you know the naming convention is correct. So when they do then join a speaking queue or a question queue, you'll know exactly who it is that wants to ask a question. And that also gives the other members some confidence in who's actually there and who's joined the meeting. And it's also something that's important when it comes to roll call and things like that, which Pete will touch on a little bit later. Um, Obviously, having the Zoom integration also allows the people that are joined virtually to raise their hand and ask questions the same as the people in the room. So in that kind of sense, you could kind of have one person from in the room ask a question and then one person from online or however you'd like to break it up, but it just makes it all kind of come together. Um, one really important tip when it comes to having an online platform is having to be really aligned with your AV provider to ensure that they're giving adequate attention to the Zoom and the virtual participants so that they're getting the same audio and visual experience as the people that are in the room as well. So that's something that we usually work really closely with the AV provider to make sure happens in a hybrid format. Um, Pete, did you want to show that video for the Zoom integration? So just a little bit of more of a look at the Zoom integration here. Kind of
Sure, I can.
give you an
I would
idea.
definitely show that video. I think one question I do have actually for you, Selena, is it's more around interpretation. Of course, one thing we can definitely do is, of course, leverage the interpretation of Zoom, and we've got good
Mhm.
experience of that.
Yes, definitely. Um, so usually with interpretation, it's one great thing. We would work with your interpretation, the interpreters that are on site, and because Zoom has such great capabilities with that, we're able to have the same interpretation functions virtually that people would have in the room. So nobody has to miss out if they don't speak the language that's being used, which is really great.
Perfect. And I think one thing I'll just add as well before sharing the video, because I think the video is a great summary of how Zoom integration works, is managing and it's a little bit to do with roll call and attendance, is the rights of the delegates that are attending. Of course, there may be scenarios where you have three delegates are representing one federation. One of those delegates may have the voting rights, and maybe the other two have speaking rights only. Once again, I think we would work very closely with you for you to identify what kind of rights each member has. But most importantly, through the platform, and it follows through to Zoom as well, is that we can identify who has those voting rights. So when a vote is posed, when a motion is posed, that only the lead delegate would have the ability to vote, who may be in the room. They may have been able to travel, but those members, those other two delegates who could not travel, who are online, for example, would only have the rights for potentially speaking, and they would never see the poll and the vote on screen. So again, it was a little touching on what Selena was saying around credentials and credential management. I just really kind of wanted to emphasize that that really does follow through to the Zoom integration piece as well and how they participate. But let me share a little video for you, which I hope will be quite a nice summary of how the Zoom integration works.
Lumi Global's Zoom integration feature seamlessly embeds Zoom into our bespoke online platform. This grants virtual attendees a smooth and accessible online experience. Viewing the proceedings, participating in the meeting, and voting on important items are all consolidated into one place. Attendees simply log into Lumi Global's platform using their unique, privately distributed login details and join the Zoom meeting within the platform when prompted. Voting will appear on the left side of the screen, while the meeting takes place in real time on the right side. There's no need for attendees to sign into Zoom or create an account. They simply enable their microphone and camera and click join. Behind the scenes, you'll retain control of your meeting. Back-end access allows you to moderate and control the flow of your meeting throughout. Through Lumi Global's bespoke platform, you can assign names and naming conventions to all your attendees. When they click to join the Zoom, their name will pop up exactly as requested. This customizability supports you with your roll call, allowing easier identification of attendees and maintaining transparency throughout your meeting. Whether hosted by Lumi Global or utilizing your own Zoom account, all of Zoom's features are accessible. From multiple language interpretation to the chat function and breakout rooms, giving you complete flexibility in the delivery of your event. To find out more, head to our website to book a demo with one of our specialists. Lumi Global, powering the meetings that matter.
So I think that's a great video. It's a great summary. And I think actually the one thing to emphasize there is that that is great material as well to share. As well as instructional guides that Selena touched upon, there is an opportunity then to also share videos such as that nature to your members. And I think that will make sure that they are completely familiar and understand exactly the platform.
Yeah, and sorry, Pete,
yeah,
on that,
perfect.
we actually have done in the past some branded ones as well for different sporting federations. So we can work with you to kind of make those branded if that's what you'd prefer as well.
Exactly. So it did in the video, it did touch on roll call, which is a lovely segue to me discussing roll call. But I will say, you're on Zoom integration now. Feel free to leverage the features. If you do want to ask a question, please don't hesitate to do that. Oh, there is one question, and we have from Alexandra. Alexandra, Alex, how are you doing?
Hi, Pete. Hi, Selena. Nice to see you
Hey,
guys.
great to see
Hey.
you. Great to see you.
Yeah. No, I have a question regarding the AI translation. And if you had some experience, like a recent experience with that, because we had some tests last year. This year we are going to have an online congress. And I was wondering if it's the quality of using AI translators instead of human translators is something that is like we are reaching that level, or still there is some handicap compared to the performance we are expecting.
Yeah, Alex, I think I could pick that one up, and I feel like I'm going to give a very politician's answer to this one, which is probably it's not a definitive yes or no. The only thing I will say is that Lumi Global not only supports Sporting Federation meetings, but we also support listed annual general meetings and investor relations meetings. So we've got a lot of experience in closed captioning, as you refer to it, in a AI form, but also in a live form. It's the politician answer for me is saying we're getting so close. But I would also say that's not a service provided by Lumi. It's always going to leverage what is out there in the markets, and we can recommend a couple of providers around this. But I think when it comes to the sensitivities and the content that surrounds a Congress and a General Assembly, it does strike a little fear in me, as it does with an investor relations meeting, what could possibly be translated wrong or closed captioned in a wrong way. So I always at the moment on the side of leveraging that live piece and that live, more accurate piece. But I think we are getting so close. But I think it is also important to mention that it is quite easily embedded with Zoom, and obviously would function very well with the Zoom integration piece. But it's a great topic around AI and what more is coming there.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Alex. Thanks so much. And thank you very much for participating. So roll call. And I'll move on to roll call now. As I said, that was a good segue, because I think the segue really is the naming convention piece that, as I said, the API that sits between Zoom and Lumi and how we move that and transition the names across. Roll call is key and is paramount. And we've seen, and you've probably seen many different scenarios occurring over the past couple of years around how roll calls are managed with Congress. Ultimately, this is your meeting. And it is your governance and it's your constitution that will always be followed. That's, of course, that doesn't just fall upon roll call, that falls upon voting and everything that surrounds your meeting. We obviously, as a technology company, want to be able to provide you the options surrounding roll call and what is the art of the possible. I think when it comes to physical roll call in the room, we've recently run a Sporting Congress meeting that worked really well, where the credentials of the delegates were used, so the badges that they were wearing, to scan into our registration system. And that would track the attendance upon entering the main room. In partnership with that, and in combination with that, of course, delegates are arriving online, either in a voting capacity or a non-voting capacity. And once again, that is all being tracked into one central server that can be scrutinized and be reported live to the Secretary General as and when required. Another alternative, rather than scanning outside the room, as an example, and combining that with online attendees, is we could also create a live vote. So at the very start of the Congress, and this can be hybrid, virtual, or in room, or a combination of everything, at the start of the Congress, we can open up a vote, which simply says, "Are you present?" And through our means of understanding, of course, everybody has a voting device, whether that be a tablet, whether that be a keypad, or whether that be bring your own device. And all of those are online as well. In a live grid form, we can show all of the nations with their three-letter country codes live on screen. And as they vote to say that they are present, they will turn green. So it's a live counter, a live moment in time that is capturing roll call and is presenting that back to the room. Now, of course, through our extensive experience in delivering hybrid meetings, virtual and hybrid participation differs because of time zones. It differs depending on when your members join. As I said, it could be the middle of the night, it could be early hours of the morning when the Congress starts. So it is fluid and it does change and it can be dynamic. Of course, we're tracking everything live and we can report to you live in that moment who is online and when they do arrive. And it is up to you and how you deal with that, about how you then communicate that back to the membership and to the Congress as far as attendees. There is also an important feature. There are many presidential elections, many elections of its nature, that in a physical room environment, as we think about the old way of doing things in room only, and we think about the concept of locking the doors. So the doors are locked just before a voting procedure. Nobody can enter the room further. We can actually mimic that online as well. So through our online controls, we can temporarily allow registrations to still occur, but not allow them to be part of the quorum and to therefore be part of that next vote. And that's a really important feature. And I think it's a capability that's key within technology to be able to that attendee number accuracy in its entirety. So I really wanted to stress that. I think that's a really important point to say, is that the options are very, very strong in this, and we can certainly work really closely with you to make sure that constitutionally you are tied in with your governance and your structure, but also we can lean upon our experience to let you know what works and perhaps what doesn't. So I hope that covers and gives us a good coverage of roll call. In terms of another feature that you'll see in the platform, it's there's is a document feature. And this document feature is really key, actually. It kind of works very nicely with the languages feature. You may notice on the languages button, you can flip between English, French, and Spanish. We support many, many more languages. I think it's 30 plus languages now that we support on the platform. But those three languages are usually the principal languages. And with those languages comes the ability to view content in that language. And that goes through voting question, through to the content on the home screen, but also the documents themselves. So as you upload the agenda or the minutes of the last meeting, and they are in their languages associated, well then, as I said, the delegates can view those documents freely. And importantly, we can update and upload documents live in the moment. So if something were to occur in the moments during the Congress and you needed supporting material to be shared quickly, then that documents feature is a lovely feature, whether that be BYOD, whether that be tablets, or whether that be, of course, for the hybrid and virtual participants. So again, it's another feature just to touch on that I think supports hybrid meetings well. And then Selena, over to you for voting.
Yeah, thanks. And definitely, I think the documents, again, it's about making it feel as even as possible. So if you're distributing something in the room document-wise, it's nice to be able to do it online as well. So yes, we are about 5 minutes left here, and to talk about maybe the most important thing, which is secure and anonymous voting. So as some of you might be aware of some of our in-room solutions, we have a few different ones. If you could just show me the slide of the. So our in-room technology, we have, whether it be keypads, whether it be tablets, bring your own device, whether it be our kiosk, it doesn't really matter what you're using. And if you're a sporting federation that's only used our in-room solution in the past, then you can just feel very confident that our in-room solutions work absolutely seamlessly into a hybrid circumstance. So everything, when votes are getting cast virtually as well as in the room on any of these different platforms, it all works into the same system and it's all secure. So no matter what choice you use for in-room, the online platform will always work seamlessly alongside of it. And of course, the voting will always, in the voting, we always consider the security and anonymity above anything else. And that kind of leads into Pete to talk a little bit more about the security.
Yeah, I'll just touch on that. I think obviously this is paramount. Security is paramount, and anonymity, of course, that is as long as your actual your motions and your Congress is required to be anonymous, depending on the type of voting that you're doing. We bounce between one and the other, and of course, how we do that is in a secure, anonymous way when it comes to voting for elections, making sure that we are authenticating people accurately into the platform. But once it comes to voting, we are conducting that, as I say, in an anonymous way. What is key about the platform and around security is its reliability, its stability, as far as how we host. And I'm not going to go into hosting data centers that we have across the world, but we are well covered from a contingency point of view from that respect. From a security element, we are ISO 27001. We are SRD2, sorry, not SRD2. We are also compliant from many other features from that perspective. And we also are continuously conducting penetration testing on the solution to make sure it is completely and utterly robust from whether that be DDoS attacks or things like that, and ensuring, as I said, and we can provide you the reliability that, of course, when we're working with the IOC and running presidential votes for the IOC, you can only imagine that we have gone through an enormous amount of security testing and checking, and that is something we can always pass on to you for reliance and a message to pass on to your members themselves to ensure that they feel comfortable with the voting platform and how it functions. And then, Selena, I think, probably more addressing the different types of questions that we have. It's going from elections to constitutional matters, yes, no, abstain votes, selecting candidates. And maybe one thing to touch on is candidate sets as well, Selena, is that we can support that functionality when it comes to any form of gender requirements.
Yeah, absolutely. So whether it be gender requirements or geo requirements or anything, we can implement those sets into the platform so they can be carried out throughout whatever in-room system you're using, as well as the online platform. So if in your constitutions you require 2 females to be selected, we can make it so that they can only select 2 females. They have to do that within the platform, or if it needs to be from a G, they have to be from a different continent or something like that. Those can all be implemented in the back end of the system. So so that we can work with any kind of constitution that you have in that regard.
Well, maybe one top tip actually, Selena, and I'll just kind of tee this one up for you, is it's a really nice one that we've seen recently, and I'm conscious of time, but it is a really nice one we've seen recently around accommodating time zone and having a vote open for an extended period of time.
Yeah, so this is really recent actually. This is in the last couple of weeks. We've had a request because of a meeting having to be virtual and because of the different time zone restrictions. There was an idea around having one vote being open for 24 hours before the live vote actually happened in the room. So those virtually from different parts of the world could all have a chance to log in and vote for it prior to the actual live election. So we're basically receiving votes for 24 hours on one of those resolutions. So that's just an example of something that a way that we can work with federations in these kind of times where things are kind of getting jumbled up and people can't travel and things like that, to make sure that your members are still able to vote no matter what.
So I'm conscious of time now, and I think we want to obviously be appreciative of your time as well, and thank you for joining. But I think as I close this and bring this together from a voting perspective, we are opening a survey. If not, it's been opened already, so you get a sense and you get a feel for the voting experience there from that perspective. So we would certainly welcome your comments and thoughts surrounding that. But I think as I bring this together, I think what we've got many years, 10+ years experience, and I can't even begin to imagine how many sporting federation meetings we've supported in all of its different guises, from in-room, hybrid, and virtual. So we've got an awful amount of experience that we would love to share with you and support you, and if you are thinking about your Congress and how to run it. But I think it's clear that successful meetings certainly rely on great engagement and fair engagement across all different methods. The clarity that surrounds the platform, the accessibility, making sure that anybody can join from anywhere around the world without any restrictions. And we've got obviously evidence that provides confirmation that that can occur. The authentication, the verification is key. And that's, again, we can draw upon our experience and work with you there to ensure that all authentication is accurate, but also importantly that we're agile, and we're agile for any movement in the meeting format or people's ability to join. And lastly, but by no means least, I touched on it very briefly, and it's not a brief matter, but security. Again, I think with all of the evidence that we have, and any platform that you ever work with, you have to be it has to be reliable, and it has to be secure, and it has to have all of the provisions in place to be agile, depending on what's occurring around the world. And we're seeing horrendous unrest in the Middle East where data centers are occurring. You need to have a technology provider that can shift data centers quickly at any given notice. And I think that's obviously key, as I said, not only for you to understand, but also for you to be able to articulate to your members to provide them the security and reliability element of the platform. But over to you, Selena, for a closing.
Yeah, no, that's a really, really good point, and thank you for voicing that. But yeah, I mean, we ran 3 minutes over, which honestly is impressive. I'm surprised we haven't run much more over. But thank you all, honestly, so much for your time. It's always great when you can join these things and we can kind of get a small number of you together to chat about these things. But yeah, if you are planning anything, or if you have questions about anything that we've kind of touched on today, please feel free to just email myself, and I will get back to you. We can schedule a call or anything like that. And if you have any questions now, we can stay on for a moment and we can chat about that as well. So yeah, just thank you so much for joining, and yeah, we're happy to help in any circumstance.
Thank you all.
Thank you.